I always start my timers from the end. What I mean by that is I like to see what the zero is going to look like when it brings your attention back to the video, because I think that's, the whole point of a timer, right? Once it counts down, what does it end with? And so I would just like to show you how I would do something like this. So, first off, I start with the background. All of my images come from Adobe Stock. I have a membership and I get a certain amount of licenses per month. They're called assets, and what that means is I am able to use that image indefinitely without worrying about copyright issues. For something like the Galaxy timer, I knew I wanted to be Galaxy themed, and I also knew I wanted it to have a cartoon feel. For instance, if you search up the word galaxy, you get realistic galaxy photos, which are beautiful and that's great and all. But to be honest, I wanted to focus on like this color scheme here. And so what I did was I refined my search to pink galaxy just to see what that yielded. And already we're nearing that color that I wanted, but it does take a lot of time. So I'm gonna just breeze through how I ended up with, what I used, since this process does take me a long time to decide. I settled on this one here. Now, originally, I was going to use this one, but it didn't have enough pink for me. So I thought something like this would meet that pink pastel purple hue that I was really going for. So as you can see, I've already downloaded it. I can re-download, but I already have the license to use this. Once you have your background, you then settle on a font. So fonts are my love language. I love fonts. I get most of my fonts from fontbundles.net. They also have some free fonts if you ever want to check them out. But for something like my little pretty Space Galaxy timer that I wanted to use, I again start with a simple galaxy search to see what that shows up. And so for this one, there's a ton of nice fonts, and while they all may be beautiful in some shape, way, or form, not every font is perfect for a timer. And let me show you why. Take this font right here, for example. So most fonts from Font Bundles allow you to look up a preview text. So what that means is you can type in your desired text and it'll show you what that text would look like in that font. So as you can see, this is bubbly and it's cute, and it might be nice, but for something like a timer, it might not be, it not might have the desired effect. So again, bubbly, cute, but it's not screaming galaxy to me. And again, I'm going to walk you through the fast process because this does take me a long time, especially to settle on the correct timer. But I ended up with Space Quest, which, as you can see, I've already purchased it and it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's everything my heart has ever wanted. The reason I love it so much is because of these glyphs right here. I wanted a timer that had numbers that add to the theme. As you can see with like my St. Patrick's Day timers, they all have a little shamrock and it just adds a little bit more fun, like a little fun aspect to the timer. So the big question was, would the numbers have those glyphs? And sure enough, they were perfect. And again, it's a little grainy because it's just a preview text, but it's going to look amazing once it counts down with that. So once you have your background and once you have your font, you then move on to putting it all together. So for Canva, which is one of my favorite websites in the whole wide world, you have a ton of options when you create. And while the video option might seem the most enticing, I actually create all of my timers using the presentation feature. Again, I am going to walk you through the fast version of how I would do that. If you want a more in-depth version, I can definitely walk you through that. Or even if you want to just learn more about all the things you can do on Canva, I'm definitely more than happy to explore that with you. So I would start with a blank presentation. Now, the first thing you want to do is upload your background. So as you can see, I've already uploaded my image. And there's a difference between resizing an image to fit the desired slide size and replacing the background with it. And the quick fix is just right clicking on the image and clicking set image as background. Normally, depending on the background that I use, I play around with the transparency feature, mainly because I want the numbers to be the center of attention in the timer, not really the background. The background should just add to the timer. In this case, however, the background, it's light, it's pastel, it's pretty. I think it's not going to be too disruptive. And so once you have your background, you then add your numbers. So I usually add my numbers using the text feature. You can add a text box, but something about adding a heading just I don't know, pleases my brain. It just looks a lot better, and I can just show you why. See, it's tiny, and then you have to resize it, and then it ends up with this space on either side of it, and that's the part I don't like. I like working with a space that's roughly the size of my number. So once you have your number, and you can always play with the size and you can play with the fonts. The cool thing about Canva is that it allows you to upload your own fonts. So the way you would do that is you click on the desired letter that you would like to change, you click on the font option, and there's this option down here to upload a font. I've already uploaded my Space Quest font, so it's ready to use, and it looks as amazing as I knew it would. And now I just need to add 4 of these, resize them, and get started. And let me do that real quick, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so let me walk you through some of the changes that I did. The first thing I did was give each number a designated space, and I did that by creating 4 different text boxes. The reason that's important is because in all of the fonts that you use, some numbers have different widths. And so what that means is that I want to make sure that regardless of what time the timer is on, each number stays in its designated space. The next thing I did was change the colors. I wanted this timer to mirror the Groovy timer where each number is a different color. And so I just picked 4 colors that kind of complement the background. Next, I settled on the colon. Similar to my St. Patrick's Day timer, I like the colon of my timers to also complement the theme. And so in the St. Patrick's Day timer, it was a shamrock. And for this one, since I'm going with a pink galaxy theme, I wanted to use some planets. And all I did was click on the elements feature, and I searched up the word planet. I also added the filter. I'm a big fan of using the free filter on Canva just to make sure that I'm not using anything I don't have permission to use. And that's how I landed on this purple planet, which I think works perfectly with this particular timer. Now, once I have the background, the font, the color, the colon, and everything looks good visually, I then get to start to play with the effects and the animations. So as you can see, rather than just choosing 4 separate colors for each number, I also gave the numbers an outline effect. You can play with a variety of effects. There's different styles to pick from. For instance, the outline feature that I used, you can modify the thickness. For this one, I just wanted it to be a little bit different than the background so that it doesn't blend in too much. But you can do a bunch of other things. Additionally, I played with the animations as well. So this is the 0 countdown portion of the timer. All I did was click on each element and add the burst feature, which just makes it pop a little bit. Now, lastly, Because I use the presentation feature on Canva and not the video feature, I need to make sure that every slide I create is a total of 1 second long to mirror the timer. And so for the ending sound, that varies depending on what sound effect or song I select. And to do that, I usually use two websites. I stick to the YouTube audio library, which is great for using these songs in your YouTube videos, or I use a subscription based service called Epidemic Sound, which has a larger library since it is, a subscription service, but it also has a handful more of sound effects. So, regardless of the website used, I always start by looking up keywords. So, in this case, I'm thinking this timer might have some kind of a twinkle or chime sound at the end. As you can see, Epidemic Sound has 293 sound effects that match that search, and the YouTube library also has a handful to pick from. The difference is that for the sound effects in YouTube's audio library, they tend to be a lot longer. So this one's over 3 minutes long, whereas the Epidemic Sound has ones that are seconds. So in this case, if you take this one, for example, this lands at 9 seconds in length, which if I wanted to use the entire sound, I would then have to create 9 individual slides of this one. So it would look something like this. Once you have your desired number of slides and each one is set to 1 second, then the final step is to download it as a video, which you can do if you have a Canva Pro. And that's how you take something as simple as a background, a font, and a presentation and turn it into an awesome timer. So again, this was just a quick rundown. If you want to see more in-depth tutorials of any of these websites, let me know. But thank you for watching.